Hey everybody, this is Jesus Blackman of Average Joe Retics, and my helper today is going to be my 2011 male het A-male sun tiger. He was hatched out here in March of this year. He is a little bit over 6 feet long, growing very nicely, and is quite easily the favorite snake, my favorite snake in my collection. But today's topic of this video is going to be basically a basic how-to guide to keeping reticulated pythons. When it comes to YouTube or just anywhere on the internet, I really don't see a lot of, how-to information when it comes to keeping these snakes. And I know there are a lot of people who want to keep them, but because of the lack of, information, it prevents them from keeping it. So I just basically want to do a quick video on, how to keep these beautiful and large growing animals. So first, let's talk about size. For you guys that didn't know, or for some of you who don't know, retics are the longest growing snake species on the planet. Easily can reach lengths of over 30 feet, but the norm is more around 26 or 24 feet. Sexual dimorphism is also what's going to come into play with retics, and basically what that is that one gender of a species is bigger than the other. So male retics would typically max out around 15-16 feet, maybe 17. Females are the ones that are going to be your monsters, growing over 20 feet long and reaching, a couple hundred pounds. Now, if you can keep the giants, then by all means, try your hand at it. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that you can't do something. I started keeping large snakes when I was 9 years old, and my first large snake was an albino Burmese python that was probably roughly around 175 pounds. So if you think you can keep the giants, then, by all means, try your hand at it. For those of you who are restricted on space and, overall help with handling these animals, there are a number of breeders. A friend of mine, Harry Wessels at Monster Snakes, works with dwarf lines and super dwarf lines. Now, when it comes to the dwarf and the super dwarf, it's kind of hard to tell people, how big that snake will actually get. Genetics plays a huge part in that, and also the feeding regimen that your snake is on. So let's say, for instance, you had a 50% Jampea dwarf tiger. It's going to be kind of hard to tell you exactly how big that snake is going to get. Because a lot of people don't believe that Jampeas are dwarfs, but technically they are. I mean, there are some larger growing Jampea lines out there, such as the Gaspar line. These Jampeas, reach around 17 feet in length, but there are some smaller ones. And if you can't handle the Jampea dwarfs, you can always go to the super dwarfs, which are, which will probably max out around 7 feet long, probably about the size of this boy here, this male here, even though he's not a super dwarf. But super dwarfs will probably get about this long, and they're basically a retic in a small package. All the things that normal mainlands and other retics do, super dwarfs do it too, it's just in a smaller package. So let's talk about housing now. An adult female or adult male retic can be housed quite comfortably in a 8-foot long by 36-inch deep by 18-inch high cage. I see a lot of people with 2 feet or more in height on their cages, and it's basically a waste of space. As retics get bigger, they're not going to be climbing a lot, so they don't need all that height. You really want to put the space into the depth of the cage. You want the snake to be able to make a nice, loose, and comfortable coil and still have, some good space So 36 inches really is, you know, a good depth for the cage. Retic hatchlings and yearlings can, you know, quite comfortably be kept in a 4-foot long cage, depending really on how fast that snake is growing. But a retic up to about 6 feet, about 6 foot long, can be, you know, housed quite comfortably in a 4-foot long cage. You also want to make sure that the cage itself is secure. That's to prevent any escapes or, you know, anything bad or serious happening. So that's about it on caging. Now, your temperatures. You want to keep a retic's hot spot somewhere around 90 degrees, and their cool side, I keep mine around 85, 86 on the cool side. Very rarely have I seen my retics on the hot side. They spend a lot of their times on the cool side. Retics, I guess, you know, kind of, you know, like it cool. So hot side 90, cool side 85 to 86. Also, for humidity, you want to keep a retic's humidity at about 70%. This is basically going to help aid in shedding, as well as keep the snake comfortable. They come from very humid, tropical, almost rainforest-like areas. So a humidity of 70% is really going to do your retic good and help that snake have a, you know, a good shed. Now, if you live in a part of the world where humidity is crap, like I do, I live in Pennsylvania, and it's quite hard to keep the humidity at 70% in Pennsylvania with the type of weather we have here. You can get a spray bottle and mist your snakes about, you know, twice a day, or you can invest in a fogging system. I know a company by the name of ZooMed who makes a fogging system that you can hook up to your cages, and I'm pretty sure it can be hooked up to multiple cages. I think they run about $60 or $75, and it's going to fog or, you know, mist your system on a timer and keep that humidity constant. So it's either or. If you want to invest in that, you can. If you want to spray them down, you know, by all means, go ahead. Let's talk about feeding. I feed my snakes once every 10 to 14 days. Hatchlings are fed every 5 to 7 days, and my adults I basically feed every 14 days, maybe a lot sooner. Either I'll say every 14 days or whenever they pass the last meal, whichever one comes first. And you want to feed your snake an appropriate sized prey item. Basically, you want to feed a snake an item that's about maybe 2 times the thickness of that snake's thickest part of its body. You don't want to feed a retic a prey item that's too large for it, as retics, unlike other python species, really kind of suffer, you know, a lot from rectal prolapsing. And basically what that is when the snake is trying to have a bowel movement, the rectum prolapses outside of the body. It's quite painful, and it can oftentimes require surgery to correct. So you want to keep the prey items at a decent size for the snake. You don't want to inadvertently hurt your animal. And I believe that's it. When it comes to handling snakes, well, retics, they're quite calm. They're very curious. They want to be, you know, they're always on the move. So you want to, you know, gently handle that animal. Hatchlings, you have a better chance of getting bit by because they're defensive. I don't like saying that they're aggressive. Aggression to me is more of a human emotion. It's basically when something sets out to do harm to something else. And retics don't, you know, look to hurt us. They're trying to defend themselves. So a hatchling, you know, to a hatchling, you're probably a big predator trying to eat it, so it's going to, you know, strike at you. So you just basically have to handle them, be calm, be gentle, and handle them, you know, almost every day. That way you'll end up with an adult retic who is quite calm and very tolerant of the handling process. I don't like to say tame, I like to say tolerant. And that's about it, I believe, in keeping retics. If I've forgotten anything, or if you guys have any questions, you can always post comments below in the comment box, and I'll do my best to answer them. And you know, if I don't know the answer, I'm pretty sure I can find someone who does. So if I've forgotten anything, like I said, let me know, make a comment, and that's about it. So thank you for joining me and my little guy here, who's wrapped up nice and tight right now and is relaxing. So say goodbye, and everyone, please be safe when keeping these giant beautiful animals. Make sure you always have more than one person in the room when you're handling them. Make sure to wash your hands. Make sure you do not handle them while you're under the influence of anything. I don't care if it's drugs or alcohol, doesn't matter. If you're high or if you're drunk, do not handle your snakes. So stay safe, and questions or comments, post them below. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thanks.